You ever have one of those days where you think you're just going to clock in, do your job, and clock out, but instead, the universe decides to drop a bombshell right in your lap? That's what happened to me, Sarah Bennett, on a random Thursday afternoon in April 2025. I'm 29, a mid-level marketing analyst at a tech startup in Seattle called Nexus Innovations, and I thought I'd seen it all. Toxic coworkers, impossible deadlines, even a CEO who once threw a stapler during a board meeting. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the moment I caught my boss, David Carter, in the middle of an affair. Live on a Zoom call in front of the entire team. And let me tell you, the fallout was a drama storm I never saw coming. It all started with a typical work-from-home day. I was in my tiny Capitol Hill apartment, sitting at my makeshift desk, a wobbly IKEA table shoved against a window with a view of a dumpster. My laptop was open, Zoom was running, and I was sipping my third coffee of the day, trying to stay awake for our weekly team meeting. Nexus Innovations was a fast-paced startup, the kind of place where you're expected to be on 24/7, even if you're running on fumes. We were launching a new app feature, and the pressure was intense. Deadlines were tight, tempers were high, and our team of 12 was stretched thin. I was used to the chaos, though. I'd been with the company for 3 years, clawing my way up from an intern to a mid-level role, and I'd learned to roll with the punches. The meeting was supposed to be a quick check-in, led by our director, David Carter. David was 42, the kind of guy who looked like he belonged on a yacht. Tall, tanned, with a jawline that could cut glass, and a wardrobe of tailored suits that screamed, "I make 6 figures." He was married, with 2 kids and a picture-perfect wife, Emily, who I'd met at the company holiday party last year. She was sweet, the kind of woman who baked cookies for the team and sent thank you cards for no reason. David always talked about his family in meetings, showing off photos of their vacations in Aspen or their golden retriever Max. On paper, he was the ideal boss, charismatic, driven, and good at rallying the team. But there was always something off about him, a vibe I couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the way he'd linger too long when talking to certain female coworkers, or the way he'd smirk when he thought no one was watching. I'd brushed it off as paranoia, but that Thursday, I found out I wasn't paranoid at all. The Zoom meeting started like any other. My coworkers popped up on the screen one by one. There was Jenna, the social media manager who always had her camera off, Mike, the data analyst who was clearly eating cereal, and Priya, our project lead, who was typing so furiously I could hear her keyboard through the mic. David joined last, his video on, sitting in what looked like his home office. He had a bookshelf behind him, stacked with business books, and a framed photo of his family, the perfect backdrop for a professional call. He smiled, his teeth too white, and launched into his usual spiel. "All right, team, let's make this quick," he said, his voice smooth as ever. "We've got a lot on our plate with the app launch. Priya, can you start with the timeline updates?" Priya nodded, sharing her screen, and I zoned out a little, scribbling notes on a post-it while sipping my coffee. I was halfway through doodling a cartoon dog when I noticed something weird on David's video feed. He'd shifted in his chair, and the camera angle had moved slightly, revealing more of the room. There was a shadow on the wall behind him, faint but distinct, a silhouette that definitely wasn't his. It was smaller, curvier, and moving? I squinted, my pen freezing mid-doodle, as the shadow bent down and then disappeared. I glanced at the chat. No one else seemed to notice. Priya was still droning on about deadlines, and the rest of the team looked bored out of their minds. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe it was a trick of the light, or his dog Max wandering around. But then it happened. The bombshell moment that turned my boring Thursday into a full-on soap opera. David leaned forward to adjust his laptop, probably to fix the angle, but instead he made it worse. The camera tilted down, and there, crouched on the floor under his desk, was a woman. Not just any woman. Jessica Harper, our HR manager. She was 35 with sleek blonde hair and a reputation for being a little too friendly with the higher-ups. She was in a tight black dress, her lipstick smudged, and her face froze in a look of pure panic when she realized the camera was on her. David's expression mirrored hers for a split second before he slammed his laptop shut, his video feed cutting to black. The Zoom call went silent. Priya stopped mid-sentence, her mouth hanging open. Mike's cereal spoon clattered against his bowl. Jenna's camera stayed off, but I heard her gasp through her mic. For a moment, no one moved, no one spoke, like we were all waiting for someone to say it was a prank. But it wasn't. We'd just caught our boss, a married man with another woman, our HR manager no less, live on a company Zoom call. Holy shit, Mike finally whispered, breaking the silence. Did we just see what I think we saw? Priya asked, her voice trembling. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My brain was still trying to process what I just witnessed. David Carter, the guy who preached family values and had a photo of his wife and kids on his desk, was cheating on his perfect marriage with Jessica from HR. And he'd been dumb enough to get caught on a Zoom call in front of his entire team. It was the kind of drama you'd see on a reality TV show, not in your 2 p.m. team meeting. The chat exploded. Messages flooded in faster than I could read them. Mike, should we say something? OMG, I can't believe this. I'm ending the meeting. We can't do this right now. Priya hit end meeting for all, and my screen went blank. I sat there, staring at my laptop, my coffee forgotten, my heart racing. What the hell had just happened? And more importantly, what the hell were we supposed to do now? I tried to go back to work, but my inbox was already blowing up with emails from the team, everyone freaking out in their own way. Jenna sent a group email titled, WTF Just Happened, full of exclamation points and emojis. Mike started a private chat with me and Priya, asking if we thought David would get fired. Priya, ever the professional, emailed everyone to please remain calm and focus on our tasks. But I could tell she was just as rattled as the rest of us. I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying the image of Jessica under David's desk, her panicked face, his fumbling hands. I thought about Emily, his wife, and their 2 little kids. Did she know? Was this a one-time thing? Or had it been going on for months? And what about Jessica? She was HR, for God's sake. She was supposed to be the one enforcing workplace policies, not breaking them in the most scandalous way possible. By the end of the day, David sent a company-wide email, clearly trying to do damage control. It was short, vague, and dripping with fake sincerity. Subject: apologies for technical issues. Team, I apologize for the abrupt end to today's meeting. I experienced some technical difficulties with my setup. Let's reschedule for tomorrow and focus on the app launch. Thank you for your understanding. Best, David Carter. Technical difficulties? That's what he was calling it? I couldn't believe the audacity. He wasn't even going to address the elephant in the room, or rather the HR manager under his desk. I wanted to reply, to call him out, but I didn't. I was too shocked, too conflicted. Part of me wanted to stay out of it. After all, this wasn't my drama, right? But another part, the part that hated liars and cheaters, wanted to scream it from the rooftops. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and called my best friend Rachel, who worked in a different department at Nexus. She hadn't been on the Zoom call, but she'd heard the rumors already. The office grapevine was faster than the internet. Sarah, oh my God, is it true? She asked, her voice practically vibrating through the phone. Did you really see David and Jessica, you know? Yeah, I said, taking a long sip of wine. It was like something out of a bad rom-com, except worse. She was literally under his desk, Rach. In the middle of a meeting. Rachel gasped, then burst out laughing. That's insane. I mean, I knew David was a sleaze, but this? And Jessica, she's HR. Isn't she supposed to, report stuff like this? Apparently not when she's the one doing it, I said, rolling my eyes. I don't know what to do, Rach. Should I tell someone, like upper management? Or Emily? Rachel went quiet for a moment, her laughter fading. That's a tough one. I mean, you could report it, but you know how these things go. David's a director. He's got friends in high places. You might end up the one getting burned. She was right, and I hated it. Nexus was a cutthroat place, the kind of company where loyalty to the higher-ups mattered more than doing the right thing. I'd seen coworkers get sidelined for less, speaking up about harassment, calling out unfair promotions. If I reported David, I'd be putting my own career at risk. But if I didn't, I'd be complicit in his lie, letting him get away with cheating on his wife and breaking every rule in the employee handbook. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if Emily found out through someone else? What if David tried to spin this and blame us for misinterpreting the situation? What if Jessica got fired, or worse, promoted to keep her quiet? The possibilities were endless, and none of them were good. The next morning, I logged on for the rescheduled Zoom meeting, my stomach in knots. David was there, his video on again, but this time he was in a different room. No bookshelf, no family photos, just a blank wall behind him. He looked tense, his smile forced, and I noticed a faint sheen of sweat on his forehead. Jessica wasn't on the call, which wasn't surprising but still sent a ripple of whispers through the chat. "Let's keep this focused, team," David said, his voice clipped. "Priya, timeline updates. Go." Priya started talking, but no one was really listening. The tension was palpable, even through a screen. Mike kept glancing at the camera, like he was waiting for another bombshell. Jenna's camera was still off, but I could hear her typing furiously, probably live texting the whole thing to her work bestie. I tried to focus, but my eyes kept drifting to David's face, searching for any sign of guilt, shame, anything. He gave nothing away. His expression a perfect mask of professionalism, but I could tell he was rattled. Good. He deserved to be. Halfway through the meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I glanced at it, expecting spam, but the message stopped me cold. "Unknown. Don't say anything about yesterday. It's being handled. You don't want to get involved." My blood ran cold. Who the hell was this? David? Jessica? Someone else at the company? I looked back at the Zoom screen, my heart pounding, but no one seemed to notice my panic. I typed a quick reply, "Who is this?" But there was no response. The message felt like a warning, a threat, and it made me realize just how deep this rabbit hole went. After the meeting, I called Rachel again, my voice shaking as I read her the text. "What do I do, Rach? This is getting weird. I feel like I'm in some corporate conspiracy thriller." "Okay, first, breathe," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Second, don't do anything rash. Whoever sent that clearly wants to scare you, but you don't even know if it's legit. It could be a prank." "A prank?" I scoffed. "After what we saw? No way. This is real, and I'm freaking out." I know, she said. "Look, if you're really worried, talk to Priya. She's the project lead, she was on the call, and she's got more seniority than you. See what she thinks." It was a good idea, but I wasn't sure I trusted Priya either. She'd always been a company woman, the kind of person who'd rather play it safe than rock the boat. Still, I didn't have many options, so I messaged her on Slack, asking if we could talk privately. She agreed, and we hopped on a quick call after lunch. "Sarah, I'm glad you reached out," Priya said, her voice low, like she was worried someone might overhear. "I've been thinking about yesterday nonstop. It's a mess." "Yeah, no kidding," I said, trying to keep my tone light despite the knot in my stomach. "I got a weird text today telling me not to say anything. I'm kind of freaking out, Priya. What do we do?" She sighed, her face tightening on the screen. "I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out myself. I mean, David's our boss, and Jessica's HR. This is a nightmare. If we report it, we risk our jobs, but if we don't, we're letting them get away with it." "Exactly," I said, leaning forward. "And what about Emily? She deserves to know, doesn't she?" Priya hesitated, her eyes darting away. Maybe. But that's not our call to make, Sarah. We're not in their marriage. We don't know the whole story. I wanted to argue, to say that cheating was cheating, no matter the story, but I could tell Priya wasn't ready to take a stand. She was scared, just like me, and I couldn't blame her. We ended the call with a vague agreement to keep an eye on things, but I felt more lost than ever. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and paranoia. I kept checking my phone, waiting for another text from the unknown number, but nothing came. David was back to his polished self in meetings, acting like nothing had happened, while Jessica returned to work, her Zoom background now a generic virtual one. The team was on edge, whispering in private chats but too afraid to speak up publicly. I started noticing little things, how David would avoid looking at Jessica during calls, how she'd laugh too loudly at his jokes, like she was trying to prove everything was fine. It was infuriating, watching them pretend while the rest of us were stuck in this awkward limbo. Then, a week after the Zoom incident, I got pulled into a meeting with upper management. My stomach dropped when I saw the email. Confidential discussion with HR and leadership. And I spent the morning panicking, convinced I was about to be fired. The meeting was in person, at our downtown office, which I hadn't been to in months thanks to remote work. I dressed in my most professional outfit, a navy blazer and pencil skirt, hoping to look more confident than I felt, and took the bus to the office, my nerves jangling the whole way. When I walked into the conference room, I saw David, Jessica, and our CEO, Mark Ellison, sitting at a long glass table. Mark was in his late 50s, with a stern face and a reputation for being ruthless. Jessica wouldn't meet my eyes, her hands folded tightly in her lap, while David gave me a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sarah, thank you for coming in," Mark said, his voice clipped. "We need to discuss the incident from last week's meeting." My heart sank. So this was it. They were going to silence me, maybe even fire me to cover their tracks. I sat down, my hands trembling, and braced myself for the worst. "We understand there was a misunderstanding during the Zoom call," Mark continued, his tone carefully neutral. "David and Jessica have assured me it was a personal matter, not a workplace issue. But we want to ensure there's no gossip or misinformation spreading among the team. Can we count on your discretion?" I stared at him, my mind racing. A personal matter? That's what they were calling an affair caught on camera? I glanced at David, who was watching me with a look that screamed, "Don't test me," and Jessica, who still wouldn't look up. I wanted to scream, to tell Mark exactly what I thought of their personal matter, but the memory of that anonymous text stopped me. "You don't want to get involved." I understand," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I won't say anything." Mark nodded, satisfied. "Good. We appreciate your cooperation, Sarah. You're a valued member of the team, and we'd hate for this to impact your future here." The threat was clear. Keep quiet, or else. I left the meeting feeling like I'd just sold a piece of my soul. I hated myself for staying silent, for letting them intimidate me, but I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't a hero. I was just a girl trying to pay her rent and keep her job. But the drama wasn't over. That night, I got another text from the unknown number, this time with a photo attached. It was a screenshot of David and Jessica, taken from the Zoom call, her face clearly visible under his desk. The message read, "Tell the truth, or I will." I froze, my hands shaking as I stared at the screen. Whoever this was, they had proof. Proof that could destroy David and Jessica, maybe even the company. But if I spoke up, I'd be putting myself in the crosshairs. I didn't know who to trust, who was behind this, or what they wanted. I called Rachel again, my voice trembling as I explained the new message. "What do I do, Rach? This is getting out of control. I feel like I'm in a spy movie or something." Okay, let's think this through," she said, her voice steady. "Someone clearly wants to expose them, but they're using you to do it. You need to figure out who this is before you make any moves. Can you trace the number? I tried, I said, pacing my apartment. It's blocked. No caller ID, nothing. Then you need to talk to someone higher up, someone who's not David or Jessica, she said. What about Mark? You said he was in the meeting. Maybe he'll listen if you show him the screenshot. It was a risky move, but I was running out of options. The next day, I requested a private meeting with Mark, my heart pounding as I walked back into the office. I showed him the screenshot and the texts, explaining everything. The Zoom call, the meeting, my fear of retaliation. To my surprise, he didn't dismiss me. His face darkened as he looked at the evidence, and I could tell he was furious. Not at me, but at David and Jessica. This is unacceptable, he said, his voice low. Thank you for bringing this to me, Sarah. I'll handle it. I left the office feeling a mix of relief and dread. I'd done the right thing, but I had no idea what the fallout would be. 2 days later, an email went out to the entire company. David Carter and Jessica Harper were taking a leave of absence for personal reasons. The official story was vague, but the rumors spread like wildfire. Everyone knew the truth, or at least a version of it. Some said David had been fired, others that Jessica had resigned in disgrace. I didn't know what to believe, but I was just glad it was over, or so I thought. A week later, I got a package in the mail. No return address, just a plain brown envelope. Inside was a USB drive with a single video file, the full recording of the Zoom call, unedited, showing every second of David and Jessica's indiscretion. There was a note attached, handwritten in neat block letters. You did the right thing. Keep this for insurance. I never found out who sent it. Rachel thought it might have been Priya, or maybe Jenna, who'd been suspiciously quiet since the incident. I didn't care. I locked the USB in a drawer, vowing never to watch it again, and tried to move on with my life. Nexus Innovations didn't recover easily. The scandal tanked morale, and the app launch was a disaster. Bugs, bad reviews, the works. Mark stepped down as CEO a few months later, and the company was sold to a bigger tech firm by the end of the year. I stayed on for a while, but the vibe was never the same. I eventually quit, taking a job at a smaller startup with better pay and less drama. As for David and Jessica, I heard through the grapevine that Emily left him, taking the kids and half his assets. Jessica moved to Portland, started over at some nonprofit, and deleted all her social media. I don't know if they ever got back together, and I don't care. They made their choices, and I made mine. I still think about that Zoom call sometimes, the moment that turned my boring Thursday into a corporate scandal I'll never forget. It taught me a lot about trust, about loyalty, about standing up for what's right, even when it's terrifying. I'm not the same Sarah I was before that day. I'm stronger, wiser, maybe a little more cynical. But I'm also proud of myself, because when push came to shove, I didn't stay silent. I spoke up, and even if it didn't change the world, it changed me.